This is Annie with Saltown Realty. Tonight, my goal is to interview Kaden Madsen. He is my sewer line scope guy. He is excellent at what he does. He is a complete expert and a fun guy. Also, I was lucky enough to sell him and his wife a home maybe like 6 months ago or something. So hopefully we can get him on here. So while we're waiting for Kaden to join, a little bit about his company. So the company is called Rooter Wizard. The reason that I have always loved working with Rooter Wizard is that they don't really do repairs. They only do scopes. And there are a lot of companies in town, not to disparage anybody, but there are a lot of companies in town that do sewer line scopes and repairs. And what I have found in 8 years of real estate is the companies that do repairs tend to find more problems when they do the scopes because it is like part of their, yeah, it's like part of how they run their business. You know, they make more money probably from the digs and repairing the sewer lines than they make from the scopes. And so, you know, oh my God, we did it.
That's my
Yay.
wife. She figured it out.
Yay, good job, Abby. So, this is Kaden Madsen. He owns Rooter Wizard, and I was just telling them the story that I don't know, like 7 or 8 years ago, I started hiring them, and Jeff owned the company. So why don't you kind of start with that? Like, I actually don't know how long Jeff ran that company, and I don't know how you met him. So why don't you tell us a little bit of the story of like how you got involved and where you are today?
Funny story is Jeff owned the company for like 30 years.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
had a great rep, and actually I worked for a maintenance company. I was making like $11 an hour, like just struggling, didn't know what to do with my life, and he was the plumber that was hired out through the HOA,
Okay.
and I met him through there. I got laid off, and Jeff hired me. So,
Huh.
um, yeah, it's kind of a crazy story, but
So you
it's
kind of
very
like
funny.
kept in touch with him during that time, or you just were like sort of professional acquaintances and
No, actually, it was more of the the management company. They're like, hey, it was an HOA, so like I was the new guy, so I got laid off because I was like I only worked there for like a year type
yeah,
thing, and then he he needed help because he was so busy, and his guy just quit on him.
got it.
Like, why don't you hire Kate? Like, and all the times like he was there, I would laugh and like hang out with him while I was
Mhm.
doing his jobs,
Yeah, he was
and
funny.
then yeah, like it just happened like that.
Yeah.
Like they just hired me, and then it goes from there. So
Nice. I love that. Yeah, my impression of Jeff, like when and I don't remember, it's long enough. I don't remember like how I became acquaintance or, acquainted with Rooter Wizard and Jeff and stuff, but he's like this gruff dude, like he's like kind of what
he's
you're,
a big dude, and he's
he's a
lost like
big
probably
dude.
100 pounds, is what I've heard
Oh,
since
wow.
retirement.
But like,
He was like he's always like, oh, Annie, she'll put on gloves and help me like do the sewer scope. So I like her. It's
yeah,
funny because it's like, and he did, so it like worked out.
yeah, we always had like a good working relationship. He never wore gloves, which we've talked about.
Yeah, it was
And
just
but yeah, like I always get on the roof with you guys when I can, or I'm helping with the camera however I can just to like expedite it. I show up to, every inspection, every serial line scope. So, but I remember when Jeff hired you, you showed up and you were like this young guy, and I was like, oh no. So anytime you would do a scope, I would secretly like call Jeff and be like, so Kaden said it looked okay, but can you look at the video and just like make sure? Because like I don't know who this kid is. Like I don't know if he knows.
no,
Um
it's true because he honestly he gave a lot of faith in me, and and it turned into me taking over the company. So
yeah.
like
So
he trusted me.
that's the beautiful thing is like
Yeah,
over time he decided he wanted to retire. He was kind of like a dad to you at that point,
he
right?
did.
And sold the
Yeah,
company to you.
there's a lot of people that offered a lot of money for the company,
Yeah.
and he denied it just because he made a promise, and I made a promise to
Yeah.
him. So it turned out good.
I love that. I totally love that. And especially right now, like, like college degrees are super expensive, and I think that like they're there is this world where like you worked hard, you developed a relationship with somebody, and you got to own your own company. And I was saying before you joined that, this year, was it last year? I don't know, 6 months, 8 months ago. No, I think we're just at a year now. Anyway, I sold you and your wife a house, so now you're in this position where you can support your family, you've got kids, you bought a house, and I just think it's like the coolest story. Um,
I love it. I love my house that you sold.
it's so
Look at
cool.
it. I mean, look at my backyard.
Yeah, you got chickens and all the things now.
I got a lot
Um,
going on. So
so let's talk.
it's been crazy. It's like things happen for a reason, I think. And as long as you're like a good person and good to people, I feel like it comes back to you.
I
So
totally agree. So, okay, I do want to talk about sewer lines because that's obviously why we're here. But since you said that, I do kind of want to tell the story of your house because I think it is like one of my personal coolest like real estate stories. So, Caden's house, I had under contract with some other buyers, and they absolutely loved the house. And so we were going through our due diligence, and Caden came by, and you've done hundreds of scopes for me at
yeah,
this point, like
I always said I hate
like
your house that you sold.
yeah, like he never has anything really to say about the houses. And this house though, he was like, dude, I love this house. I love this house. Can you get your guys to cancel? I want to buy it. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not how it
That's when
works,
the
but I'm
market
happy to help you
was
find one.
hot. It was going for a
Yeah.
lot more than
Yeah.
what I got.
Yeah, it was during a very competitive
This
time.
cash.
Yep.
So,
and what ended up happening is there was it was a kind of an estate sale, like the owner had passed on and his family was selling the house, and they had sold a variety of houses, but they had kind of just glitched and hadn't checked the records close enough, and basically that house needed to go through probate, so the sellers ended up canceling on my original buyers, and it was this big deal. It was really traumatic for them. So anyway, they canceled on that house. I ended up selling them another house. They now have remodeled it with one of my favorite contractors, and they have a baby and all this stuff. But then I don't know, like 6 months down the road, um, I'm going through the MLS, and there's that friggin' house again. And I remembered that you loved that house, and I was like, dude, you're not going to believe this. Actually, I totally forgot to tell you this whole story that happened. Sent it to you, and then you live in that house now. And so speaking
you
of
were like,
things
hey, I
that are
forgot to
always
tell you,
meant to
but
be,
that house is back on the market. And it's like, I want it.
yeah, yeah. And we just did it like that. I took a little convincing of the agent because I think she thought that I was like, dude, I'm not in the wrong. I did everything I was supposed to do. You guys
It's
were the
like a
ones that
quick sell.
super
Like,
fast.
I got it for probably 100 less than it was going for.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
So
yeah, it's like, I literally look at my wife and I'm like, sir, this is our home.
yeah,
So it's
it's
been
so cool.
great.
Okay, let's talk about sewer lines though. So give us a little bit of information on like let's just talk about sewer lines. Like what is a sewer line? Why should people get a sewer line scope? Like why does your company exist?
The reason why people should get a sewer line scoped is because it's probably one of the most expensive things on a house.
Hmm.
It's hard to say. It's like a monopoly. It's like you got all these big companies that just have raised their price on sewer lines. Um, I mean, you don't want to buy a house, and then I've seen so many jobs where I go into a house and they're like, "Oh, we're new owners. We don't know what's going on." And then I go in like, "Did you do sewer scope?" No, the agent didn't even mention that.
Hmm.
Well, that's gonna cost you 15 grand, and they had
Yeah.
no idea. Even though it's like flowing with the inspection there, you can run water all day. As soon as you start putting salts, whatnot down, it backs up. You got
Yeah.
roots, you got breaks, you got sinkhole. I've seen it all. So I think it's very smart to do a sewer line scope because of that reason. I mean, it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
It's what it is. And there's a company that bought out a lot of these big companies up here too. Sorry, my healer is just attention. Um, it's just, to me, it's like a ripoff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like you're paying like for a new car or like a used good car for a sewer line. When it only costs this much money. Like, why are they
Yeah.
upping this price to this?
So
So
just
it's to me, it's become almost like a scam. I hate to say
yeah,
it.
I
Like
agree.
people are just ripping, and me, like, I don't get commission. Like, I do this for this, but the person that you hire out to do a sewer scope is a salesman, a car
Yep.
salesman. So they have to sell, or they don't get their commission. So
Yeah.
and I get it because I work with a lot of these people, and like I don't want to like throw them under the bus, but it's their companies that like they've all done the same technique. They scare you. So there's different ways, like camera sewer you could do. Uh, Say it needs to be replaced, replace it. If not, say it needs to just be cleaned. Clean it out like
Hmm.
every 3 to 5 years, depending on how you clean it the situation of the sewer. I mean, I have so many customers that jet their lines like once every 3 to 5 years that don't want to replace it and spend $20,000 when they can spend $700,
Yeah.
or whatever the companies are $1,000.
Totally. So let me give like a little bit of a broader picture for like anybody who might watch this who doesn't know. So like every house has sinks and toilets and showers, and all of our waste, our physical biological waste, all of our sink waste, like your kitchen sink, even if you have a garbage disposal and all that stuff, your shower water, everything basically runs out this giant tube out of your house, goes into the middle of a street or an alley for Salt Lake, and then there's an even bigger tube, and all of that shit just goes to a processing plant somewhere. So the portion that Kaden deals with is the sewer line that goes from your house all the way out to the street.
Which is
And in terms of like why I go with Rooter Wizard is like he's saying, he doesn't do repairs. Now, can he do repairs? Yes, because like he's a plumber and he knows how to do these things. But like repairs isn't part of the business model. And so like what you're saying is a lot of these other companies that are out there, their business model is the house colonoscopy. That's how I call it, because it's
it's
basically
every
like
house they go
right,
to, they have to sell.
right.
Is
They're required to like sell a repair on that line. So what I and many realtors have found is that if you call out one of these companies, they scope the line, and the likelihood that they're going to find a problem is like significantly higher than if Caden comes out. He might go, yeah, there's some roots in there, let's clean it out. So he has a jetter. It's basically this hose with high powered water, like high pressure water, that just like cleans out that whole home colon, so
the,
that you
the
can preserve it
butthole of the
over
house,
time.
is what we
It's
call
like
it.
the butthole of the house, totally. So,
So
um,
here's my job. This is what I think of it. So I go to a house. I'm getting hired to do a sewer inspection. I inspect the sewer. I tell the buyers what it looks like,
yep.
and I let them know, like, hey, this is your options. It's like you could do this, you could do this, do
Mm-hmm.
this. I can recommend. You might get years out of this by doing this, or I mean, if it's flat out bad, you got to replace it.
Yep.
I'll recommend that. I'm not there to sell. I don't like. I don't think it's fair for a seller to have somebody come and sell
Yeah.
a sewer line that costs some money.
Yeah.
When so I'm representing the buyer in the most honest way I can, and also the seller. I'm not trying to rip off.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get a
Yep.
check, a commission check. So
Yeah. Exactly.
that's the way I picture it. Is that I'm there to like inspect it, show them what it looks like,
Yep.
and give them my
No,
feedback.
that's
That makes
perfect.
sense.
So let's talk about, Salt Lake is a fairly old city. I know if anybody from like Boston or something is watching, they're like lols. But, our sewer lines have gone through evolution since houses have been built and sewer lines have been part of it. So what are some materials that some of the sewer lines in Salt Lake are made out of?
Um, go the main sewer is clay. You'll see transite, which is a concrete and asbestos. In the avenues, you'll see cast iron, which is I don't know why they use cast iron. I haven't figured that out yet, but I think it's because they have it's on hills, or maybe
Hmm.
it's more bougie. They're on a hill, so they use more expensive pipe, and they all have the pros and cons. They have clay you get roots,
Yep.
cast iron you get rust buildup. It encloses
Yep.
on itself, so it gets instead of this over time it starts to do this.
Yep.
Um, uh, One that I just did in Magna. Kearns had a lot of Orangeburg, which the city came out and replaced a lot of it because of it was a recalled pipe. And what I was told, which I'm not sure if it's true, but I'm assuming it is. But during those years, metals were short from the war,
Oh,
so
interesting.
they tried to come up with a new pipe,
Huh.
but then they shortly realized that it was a bad pipe and it was tar and paper, so it smushed.
Oh.
Uh, so,
Huh.
I mean, you'll see that in Magna, a lot in Clearfield, Magna, Kearns. You don't see a whole lot anymore, but there is still some that I do, and I see Orangeburg.
Yeah.
It's more of like me letting the person know, like, hey, this is what you got, and this is the type of material, and this is what it can cause, and that way they're aware of their
And
issue.
these are the implications of each material, right? So like a cast iron pipe, because it sort of rusts from the inside out, it tends to have all of these like metal flakes inside. So if you
Yeah.
put like a tampon or a like face wipe or something down there, it's more likely to get caught and build up over time, right?
Correct. And I've seen
Um,
one tampon plug up a brand new sewer. It expended
Wait,
that.
did you tell me the story about the frozen tampon that was up in Big Cottonwood Canyon? That had to have been you, or maybe it was
Probably,
Jeff. Where like
probably
somebody
yeah.
said that somebody put a tampon and then it swelled up and took up the whole line, but then winter happened and they winterized the cabin and went on their way, and then it was like just this frozen cotton swollen, and they actually had to like repair it. Was that you that told me
No,
that?
I don't know if that's me. I don't
Yeah,
recall that, but I've seen one tampon
yeah,
plug up a brand new sewer just by the string getting caught.
yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah. So
So
what are some things, let's talk about ways. So
so
obviously like,
here's my also thing is
okay,
if you have a bad sewer, you can still have a good sewer.
yeah,
Like I, I have customers that have never had an issue, and I go scope the sewer line. I'm like, this looks like crap, and
lols,
they like
fun.
literally
Sorry.
they're like, I've never had an issue. Like, and usually I can see marks on access points from like cables or whatnot, and I
Okay.
believe them. And then I have people that are like, yeah, we have an issue, once every 6 months because of this little low spot or not, and they
Yeah.
have brand new pipe. So it's like,
Huh.
I just went to a job yesterday in Harriman, brand new house. They lived there for like 3 years, all new pipe. It took me like 2 seconds to clear it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I hired 3 companies out to cable it. I'm like, I'm guessing you have a low spot where, the snake's going through where you got to jet it to like actually break it up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, it's a new sewer. So
Yeah.
when I do a sewer scope, I don't know if you're going to have issues within,
Hmm.
I kind of guess by the way I see it and what I experience. But a lot of it is, I don't know.
I do feel like you have like a bit of a sixth sense. Like I've definitely had you show up to places and be like, yeah, this one's gonna be bad, you know?
Well,
Or the same way, like I think there's been so much stuff that I've learned from you over the years,
it's
but
more based on the area. I can
yeah,
kind of tell.
exactly. Because like it's,
Like
a lot of it is like the
age of home
soil.
in this area,
Uh-huh.
like I already got like a sixth sense, like, oh, you probably have roots. I can
Yeah,
guess it,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So it's hard to say,
yeah.
but I don't know if somebody's been in there 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and replaced the sewer line. So
Sure.
I don't know until I actually look at it.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that I learned from you is I think it was in regards to daybreak is 95% of the houses that I sell are like super old houses. And so I always recommend sewer line scopes. But every once in a while, there's been like a newer house or maybe like a new development like Daybreak. Not that I sell in Daybreak, but and I'm like, Kaden, like, what do you think? Is this like a new house? Like, and he's like, oh, I see broken sewer lines in Daybreak all the time because they build all these new houses and things settle out, right? Dirt settles out and it depends on the type of soil. And you can have like a completely busted brand new line. That's like not unheard
No,
of
if I
in some
had
of
my
these areas.
phone, sorry, my Hitler, go away, go play, go get the chickens. Um, if I had my phone, I had a picture exactly. It was actually my next door neighbor when I lived in Harriman. I mean, these houses were built like 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and I rented there, but I was literally my neighbor across the street owned the house, and his water line broke, and it just literally flood out the basement. Blah blah blah, whatever. So I was going in for a water line. That's we started like I called my buddy up to go do the dig. He dug it up, and when he was digging, he's like, "Dude, you got to like show these pictures." So the whole driveway was there's probably about a 2 foot section.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the gravel, and you can see the driveway. And I'm like, dude, if you park a truck right here, the whole drive is gonna, snap.
Yeah.
And it just depends on the area. And
Yeah.
I mean, things get so built up so quick nowadays because it's so I mean, you just never know.
Yeah. So what are some things for people that already own houses? What are some things that people should be thinking of if they have an older home or any home that they should and shouldn't be putting like down the drains
I mean,
or the toilets?
honestly, you shouldn't put down tampons. You shouldn't put down wet wipes, even though they say flushable. I mean, those are like the big causes of backup.
Somebody on here said dental floss too, which I never thought
You know
about.
what? Actually, I pulled up. It was actually really gross. This is when I first started, and it was dental floss that was caught on the cast iron on the interior.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, it was probably like 70 years of dental floss.
Oh.
The guy had great teeth, but it was disgusting. I was like, what? But I've also seen one tampon plug up a sewer line.
Yeah.
One tampon.
Yeah.
So it's like,
somebody said something about bacon grease too.
oh, that's yeah. So here's the thing about grease is if you put it down, we call it icebergs, and what it does is it forms like chunks. And this is why I quit working at restaurants. It's because of grease. Grease is more disgusting to me than it's just my equipment's so greasy, pulling it back, and it's so gross and like stinky.
Yeah.
But grease will settle up in like pools. So if you have a little low spot, it'll settle up and it'll like build. And it'll like foam up into what we call an iceberg.
Yeah.
And it's a huge chunk of like yellow, white nastiness.
Yeah.
And
gross.
Yeah, that's why I quit all my restaurant deals.
All right. So let's end this with, I want to hear, I didn't warn you that I was going to ask this because I just thought about it. Name some of the weirdest things you've ever seen in a sewer line.
Well,
without getting
I kind of love like kids' toys. Do you want to hear like the weirdest thing I've ever found? I don't think it's appropriate.
God. I guess we can always edit it out later. But no, this is going to live live on my Instagram. Is it like give me a hint. Okay.
So,
if it's not appropriate,
I've seen everything. I've seen like toys, like kids' toys. I've seen grease. I've seen the nastiest, and then I've seen like what the hell? How did that get down the toilet?
Okay, somebody said do it live. So tell us. We've got an adult audience on here.
So I had this customer who used to call me a lot. He had a party, and
oh God.
I mean, I got neighbors around. I mean, you find like drugs, and you find like needles, you find like you see everything. But the weirdest thing I ever found was a dildo.
Somebody flushed it down the toilet?
It was like a party they had. He went out of town, and I went to his house, and I flushed it out.
Amazing.
And I acted like I didn't know what it was, and I stuck it on his garbage can. And it was big. I'm like, dude, how'd this get down your toilet?
Seriously.
And I've never got a call back.
Oh wow, yeah. He was like, oh God, I can't face that guy again.
Yeah, it was a big dildo. That was probably the biggest, worst. My wife just came out, she's laughing with my kids. But it was like, yeah.
Oh
and he
God.
was a good customer. And he's like, but
yeah,
I guess some people get embarrassed.
So, for everybody out there to take care of your lines, don't put down grease, don't put down dental floss, tampons, and certainly don't flush your dildos. This is a great learning opportunity.
That was like one experience, but
yeah.
But
yeah,
like
it doesn't seem
like
one that
you got to know, like you can always experience a sewer backup, it doesn't mean you have to replace the sewer. It means like what you're putting down, like, and then
Yeah.
you get these big companies that come out and they sell like, oh, this. They find a reason to sell you on that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, like spend like $200 on having it cleaned out, or $700 on having it flush with the roots or whatever.
Yep.
And I
So if
have a lot of customers that do that, and they do it every couple
I
of
know,
years,
well,
which
I gotta do my place.
they have receipts. I don't, because I took over the company, but they have receipts from like 2010. I'm like,
Oh,
so you've
wow.
been doing this, you know, every 3 years. You still haven't got to the cost of like a liner or whatnot,
Yeah.
like a replacement.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to care for your home, care for your sewer line. So, if anybody out there owns a house and they need a sewer line scope and they haven't had or a clean out or anything like that, reach out to me and I'll give you Caden's number. He's the best in town. He's not going to take you for a ride. But yeah, thank you so much
Okay.
for joining us on here. I really appreciate. Oh, we got one quick question. Generally, how often should people jet their lines out?
Oh, I didn't even realize there were people like
Oh yeah,
commenting.
it's live, so there's people like commenting and stuff.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
didn't even realize that. It depends. I mean, when I scope a house and there's roots, and like if they're bad, I'm like, okay, we got to jet it, scope it in a year, and that will tell you how quick the roots grow. So it could be
Super
a
smart advice.
yearly thing, or it could be, you know, 5 years.
Yeah.
It depends on how many roots you have. Depends on how many. It, it depends.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
No,
I
I
can't
think
tell you that.
that's good advice. The other thing you've said before is like, if the more often you have it jetted, the less likely that those roots will get bigger and bigger and bigger and cause issues. You want to jet them when they're still relatively small before they get too
See,
big in
the hard part is if we wait too long, I've had customers where I can't clear it.
Yep. Yep.
And with the jetter, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt the pipe, in my opinion. Some people claim that it hurts the pipe when I do it on a daily basis. When it doesn't, it's usually the pipe condition, or if the
Hmm.
roots holding the pipe together. But usually they go through the joints, and it's usually a year to a few years. It's hard to say.
Yeah. And also, if you've got a cast iron pipe and there's roots in it, it might be an indication that there is actually a breach in the pipe because, like he's saying, those clay pipes are in 3-foot sections that kind of like just move
Mm-hmm.
together. So the roots get in through those cracks.
Yep.
But a cast iron pipe is supposed to be a solid structure without those cracks. So if you see roots in a cast iron pipe, have
Cast
it
iron
cleaned
is
out, and
it's the
there's a
hardest pipe to
likelihood there's a
predict
yeah,
because you don't. It's hard to find the joints because you can't see them
right,
because of the rust, and also I don't know if it's the pipe is so thinned out because of the rust and the buildup over the years
right,
that if it's a
right,
hole or if it's a crack,
right.
and a lot of times you can't see a crack in a cast iron, but you can on the
Mm-hmm.
outside. So like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of houses I go to, I'm like, oh, there's a big crack, and then I camera it and I can't see it because it got rust that covers it on the inside.
Right.
So it's cast iron is the hardest pipe to predict, in my opinion. And usually with cast iron, if it's to the point where it's like channeled up or rusted really bad, it's like one of those things you let just kind of go and kind of hope for
Mm-hmm.
the best,
Mm-hmm.
or it's one of those things you got to fix.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of times I've been to houses, so I'm like, this looks like crap, and like we've never had an issue. But
Yeah.
a lot of that does depend on what people put down their
Yeah.
sewers.
All right. Well, you're getting harder and harder to see because of the waning light. But
Sorry.
yeah. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for all that you
Yeah,
do
no,
for me and my
that's
clients.
great.
And
I was very nervous. I couldn't figure out. I don't do like.
it's all good. You did great. It was great.
But
Yeah.
no,
Super informative.
that's great.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool.
thanks, Annie.
Thanks, Kaden. See
Okay,
you Monday.
we'll talk to you later.
Bye. Bye.